The witness raises a hand and points across the crowded courtroom, and the air in the room tightens. Everyone watches the finger come to rest on the defendant, a man the witness has never met before this moment. The attorney asks one more question, and the witness answers with a voice that holds no trace of doubt. "I am completely sure," the witness says, and every head in the jury box turns toward the same face. The only remaining question is how someone can be this certain about a memory while also being completely mistaken. The scene feels like a paradox: a sincere person, a clear recollection, and an absolute identification that later proves to be wrong. In criminal investigations, eyewitness misidentification has contributed to more wrongful convictions than any other single factor. The puzzle is not that witnesses sometimes forget. It is that they can remember with impossible confidence and still point to an innocent person. A memory that arrives with such force feels like a sealed package, delivered by the past exactly as it happened. The trouble begins when we discover that memory does not record events the way a camera records light. What memory does, instead, is something far stranger. And understanding it changes how we hear the witness when he points across the room. The obvious explanation for the confident witness is that he simply saw the face clearly and stored it intact. According to that view, forgetting might dim the picture over time, but when a memory feels vivid, it must still be the original record. This explanation is tidy, comforting, and mostly wrong, because human memory is not a retrieval system that replays stored files. Memory is a constructive process that pieces together fragments of experience each time we remember, and sometimes it adds pieces we never actually experienced. When the witness says he can see the face like a photograph, he is describing a feeling called a sense of vivid recollection. The feeling of vividness can be incredibly persuasive, but it is not a guarantee that every detail in the memory arrived straight from the actual event. Imagine a child assembling a puzzle from a box that has slowly gathered extra pieces from other boxes over many years. The child can snap a picture together and feel certain it belongs to the original box, even though a few pieces came from somewhere else entirely. Our witness is not lying, and he is not careless. He is working with a memory system that fills gaps without notifying awareness. First turn is this: confident identification is not a lie detector, because the same mechanisms that make a memory feel complete can also make it feel completely reliable. Researchers have spent decades studying what happens between the moment a person witnesses an event and the moment they offer their identification. One well-established finding is that memory is malleable during the retention interval, the silent space between seeing and reporting. During that interval, new information can enter the memory without the person recognizing that it was ever absent before. Post-event information can alter what a witness remembers about details like a weapon, a face, or the duration of an event. The witness is not aware that his memory has integrated the overheard remark, because the memory now feels as original as the sight of the perpetrator. This process is called the misinformation effect, and it means that two witnesses who saw the same event can later hold different memories without either one consciously cheating. The second turn requires us to look at the moment of identification itself, not just the aftermath, and ask what shapes confidence at the instant it is spoken. A simple comment like "good," that is the suspect, can triple a witness's confidence in their choice without changing their accuracy at all. This phenomenon is called the post-identification feedback effect, and it shows that confidence is not a stable measurement of memory quality. Confidence behaves more like a dial that other people can turn, often by accident, long after the event is over. The witness in the courtroom is not recalling only the crime. He is recalling every moment of reinforcement that told him his choice was correct. Now consider what happens during the crime itself. because conditions at encoding shape what the brain can capture in the first place. High stress can narrow attention like a flashlight beam, making a central threat, such as a weapon, exceptionally clear while leaving peripheral details in shadow. A witness who stares at a gun may later have very little mental record of the face holding it, even though the weapon memory feels searingly clear. The weapon focus effect explains why a witness can describe the shape of a knife perfectly, but struggle to remember whether the attacker had a beard. Stress does not simply erase memory. It redistributes attention, and the witness cannot later report what was never fully registered. The witness in the courtroom is answering questions about a face that his own attentive system may have deprioritized in the moment of greatest danger. Other factors can add layers of distortion without the witness having any sense that his recollection has shifted. When a witness and a perpetrator come from different racial backgrounds, identification accuracy drops significantly, a pattern known as the cross-race effect. This is not a moral failing. It is a perceptual challenge that arises from the way we learn to encode faces most precisely within familiar groups. A witness who makes a cross-race identification may be just as confident as one who makes a same-race identification, even though the error rate is higher. Once again, confidence and accuracy diverge because confidence reflects a feeling about the memory, not a count of the reliable details inside it. The passage of time alone can sculpt recollection in ways that leave confidence surprisingly untouched. Forgetting the details of a face happens at a different rate than forgetting the feeling of certainty that accompanied the first recollection. A witness can lose access to the original visual information while retaining the emotional conviction, and then mistake that conviction for evidence of accuracy. This is the point where the puzzle deepens into something more unsettling, because confidence is not simply a broken meter that needs fixing. In a courtroom setting, the pressure to provide a clear answer may amplify a witness's expressed confidence simply because uncertainty feels socially unacceptable. Jurors tend to weight confidence heavily, but they are listening to a feeling that may have been inflated by factors that have nothing to do with the truth of the identification. The third turn is not that confidence is meaningless. It is that confidence is meaningful in a more complicated way than we first assumed. Under pristine conditions, when the witness was well positioned, when the identification happened quickly, and before any feedback occurred, initial confidence can be a moderately useful indicator. But pristine conditions are rare in real-world crime, and once feedback, repetitions, and courtroom performance enter the picture, the link between confidence and accuracy weakens. The witness's brain is not intentionally exaggerating. It is operating exactly as designed, making coherence out of scattered signals and feeling certain when the pieces fit. Our memory system evolved to help us navigate a changing environment and make rapid decisions, not to record dispassionate forensic video. Each time he retold the story to a detective, a lawyer, or a family member, the act of retrieval strengthened the parts he recalled and subtly smoothed over the gaps. Retrieval is not a neutral playback. It is an act of reconstruction that can consolidate distortions while deepening the feeling of familiarity. The witness has practiced his memory into a shape that feels more solid with every repetition, even if the shape no longer matches the original event perfectly. What he is experiencing is called retrieval fluency, the ease with which a memory comes to mind, and the mind routinely misreads that ease as a signal of truth. The witness is now drowning in retrieval fluency, and every smooth recall of the false identification whispers to him that his choice must be correct. At the same time, he is subject to confirmation bias, the human tendency to notice and remember information that supports a belief while missing contrary evidence. If he later sees the man he identified looking nervous in the courtroom, he will interpret that nervousness as guilt, not as the ordinary anxiety of being accused. His brain is knitting together an increasingly coherent story, and the final coherence of that story is the last false proof he needs. The cost of this misunderstanding is not abstract. It is measured in prison years served by innocent individuals, while the actual perpetrator remains free. Each step in the process makes psychological sense, but the cumulative outcome can be a catastrophic error that no amount of conviction can correct. The witness is not a villain in this story. He is a person caught inside a system of perception, attention, suggestion, repetition, and emotional commitment. Understanding why this happens does not excuse the error, but it reveals where the error lives and how it might be reduced. The central question all along has been how confidence can feel like proof while signaling something far less reliable. Here is the reversal that changes the meaning of the courtroom scene entirely. Confidence is not a measure of how accurately a memory was stored. It is a measure of how strongly a person believes the story their memory has become. The witness is not reporting what he saw. He is reporting what he now remembers, after the event has been filtered through stress, attention, feedback, repetition, and belief. His absolute certainty is genuine in the sense that he genuinely cannot detect the difference between the original event and the memory he now holds. The feeling of remembering and the feeling of knowing are indistinguishable to the person experiencing them, even though they travel by different cognitive routes. The witness is trapped in a metacognitive blind spot. He has no window into the constructive operations of his own memory, only into the finished product. When he says, "I am completely sure," he is telling the truth about his subjective experience, while simultaneously being objectively mistaken. This is not a rare anomaly reserved for the courtroom. It is a feature of every human memory system operating outside ideal conditions. The revelation is that the witness's confidence is a testimony to the power of memory construction, not a certificate of memory accuracy. A pause settles over the courtroom as this insight lands, not with relief, but with the sober recognition that certainty is a feeling, not a fact. Once we understand that confidence can separate from accuracy, the way we listen to any confident recollection changes. We begin to ask not only how sure someone feels, but what the conditions of encoding, delay, feedback, and retrieval have been. For the legal system, this means valuing initial, immediate confidence statements over courtroom certainties that may have been shaped by months of suggestion. For the rest of us, it means holding our own strongest memories a little more lightly, knowing that the feeling of rightness can arrive without the fact of rightness. The witness steps down from the stand, and his face still carries the serenity of a person who has told the truth as he knows it. The jury glances at each other, and the weight of the decision ahead has suddenly grown heavier, because confidence has lost its monopoly on credibility. This does not mean that all memory is worthless or that witnesses should never be believed. It means that memory is a tool with specific operating instructions. Memory can be remarkably accurate when encoding conditions are good, when recall happens promptly, and when the environment does not supply misleading cues. The problem is not with the human capacity to remember. It is with expecting memory to perform like a machine when it is instead a lifelong biological process. Every time we remember, we are rebuilding a structure from a partial blueprint, using materials that have been touched by every experience we have had since. The witness in the courtroom is not an exception. He is a vivid example of what every mind does on a smaller scale every single day. A friend who misremembers a shared past, a partner who recalls a conversation differently, or a child who swears she saw something that never happened are all traveling the same constructive path. The insight that frees us is not that people are unreliable, but that memory is a story the brain tells itself in order to make sense of a chaotic stream of moments. When we look at the witness raising his hand, we are no longer watching a simple report of facts. We are watching the human mind doing what it has always done, constructing a coherent world from fragments. The finger points with absolute certainty, and the room is silent, because everyone now understands that certainty and truth are not the same thing, and they never were.